Morning. JPSC JET question number 56. In skeletal muscle contraction, the power stroke is initiated by which one of the following? The options are the initial binding of ATP to the myosin heads, release of PI from the myosin heads, release of ADP and subsequent addition of an ATP molecule, and option number D is detachment of the myosin head from the actin and phosphorylation of the myosin light chain. Okay, this is the question. The skeletal muscle contraction question is based on skeletal muscle contraction, and what is power stroke in with relation to skeletal muscle. So let's see. So this question is based on sliding filament theory that explains the mechanism of muscle contraction, isn't it? So this theory tells that the contraction of muscle fibers takes place by sliding of the thin filament, that is actin, over the thick filament, that is myosin. So let's see how the muscle contracts, isn't it? So before starting, let's revise what is actin and what is myosin. Actin protein, actin protein has binding sites for myosin, but the site is covered by one subunit of troponin, isn't it? You can see in the figure. And likewise, meromycin head is also meromycin or myosin head have also the binding site to for actin and ATP binding site. More importantly, both has sites for each other to communicate or connect, isn't it? You can see here myosin binding site present on actin and actin binding site present on myosin. Okay, meaning both are destined to meet. Both are able to communicate in a proper given environment. But the troponin stops myosin from binding to actin bit because it occupies the binding sites of myosin on the actin. So what do you think? Let's say if you want to go for a walk, isn't it? You are thinking for going into a walk. So what happens? Let's see what happens. Your central nervous system releases signal for muscle contraction, isn't it? The motor neuron bring this signal to muscle cells. After that, what happens? Motor neuron and muscle cells combinedly are called as motor unit, and where the neurons and muscle fiber or sarcolemas. What is sarcolemas? The plasma membrane of muscle cell is known as sarcolema. Where these where these two cells meet is known as neuromuscular junction or motor end plate. You know these things. Then, as the signal passes from central nervous system to the end plate, neurotransmitter are released. These neurotransmitter are what? Nothing but acetylcholine. You know these things. Okay, when acetylcholine reaches the plasma membrane, sits on the plasma membrane of the muscle fiber on the acetylcholine receptor, a, a action potential is uh, generated, isn't it? Action potential is generated across the cell membrane, and this due to which the calcium ion is released from the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Sarcoplasmic reticulum is nothing but endoplasmic reticulum of the muscle fiber cell, isn't it? Sarcomere. After that, these calcium ion, when uh, released into the cytoplasm, it binds to the troponin, isn't it? It binds to troponin, releasing it from the actin binding site, and the actin binding site is free for myosin to bind, isn't it? Then when the troponin is busy with calcium ion, the myosin binding site becomes free and the myosin head region binds to actin site, forming a cross bridge utilizing one ATP, isn't it? One time ATP is utilized, the cross bridge moves itself, isn't it? And moves, that is slides it onto the actin filament, isn't it? Releasing what? Utilizing ATP. When ATP is utilized, ADP and PI is released, isn't it? This is known as power stroke, isn't it? You must remember this. Again, meromycin head region binds to actin site, forming a cross bridge utilizing one ATP and slides in the interior portion, slides one step inward, isn't it? And the ATP is hydrolyzed into ADP and PI, isn't it? So this is itself is known as power stroke, and it utilizes one ATP. Again, now as the myosin tries to relax, more ATP comes and binds to myosin, and power stroke is repeated again and again, isn't it? So when one ATP is utilized, the myosin uh, strokes, or that is known as power stroke, and again another ATP comes along and another power stroke is generated, isn't it? So this process is repeated for muscle contraction, and you can see in subsequent figure the muscle is contracting, isn't it? You can see here the gap is being closed, and this sliding this is called as sliding theory, and the muscle contracts in this way. Again, when the muscle has fully contracted, as you can see, now the myosin relaxed gets relaxed, and as the muscle has relaxed, the calcium is being again absorbed back into the sarcoplasmic reticulum. This makes the troponin free, and the troponin binds into actin filament, actin filament, and the myosin cannot binds to actin filament, making the muscle more contract, isn't it? So this process is repeated again and again, isn't it? Not just I have told, when calcium ion leaves troponin subunit, goes into sarcoplasmic reticulum, the contraction process stops and the muscle gets relaxed, and the process continues again and again, so that the muscle contraction is needed as used as per needed. So let's see the question. The initial, now you can understand this question. In skeletal muscle contraction, the power stroke is initiated by which one of the following? The initial binding of ATP to the myosin heads, isn't it? Or the release of PI from the myosin heads, release of ADP and subsequent addition of an ATP molecule, or detachment of myosin head from actin and phosphorylation of myosin light chain. So for this answer, you have to see separately what it is telling. See, option number A is telling the initial binding of ATP to the myosin. This effect, what if it causes the binding of ATP? What causes this? Actually causes the myosin head to detach from actin filament. When the when the ATP binds to myosin, the actin filament gets detached. After a power stroke, the myosin head remains stuck to the actin in a state called rigor mortis until a new ATP molecule arrives to break that bond. Isn't it? When the power stroke is done, okay, when the power stroke is done, the myosin does not releases the actin, isn't it? It holds on to the actin molecule until and unless the new ATP molecule arrives. When the ATP molecule arrives, then only the myosin releases the actin molecule. So this option is not correct. Again, release of PI from the myosin head. Now as the ATP molecule arrives, the myosin head releases the uh, actin molecule, and again it utilizes the ADP and again gives the power stroke with the utilizing the ATP and releasing ADP and PI. So when as the PI is released, this the power stroke happens, isn't it? So this is the correct option. Again, option number third was release of ADP and subsequent addition of ATP molecule. So when here you can see ADP and PI are released, isn't it? So when PI is released, then only the power stroke is done, and ADP is released after PI is released. PI is released first, isn't it? And option number C is release of ADP and subsequent addition of ATP molecule. Now, ADP is released toward the end of the power stroke, but does not initiate it, isn't it? So when there is release of ADP and PI, the PI is released first, okay, and the PI, as the PI is released, the power stroke is done, but the myosin molecule holds on to ADP, isn't it? Holds on to ADP and it forms a bond between the actin and myosin molecule. It does not let go of itself, isn't it? So as you can see here, option number C is release of ADP and subsequent addition of ATP molecule. Effect, what the effect is, ADP is released toward the end of the power stroke, but it does not initiate it. The subsequent addition of ATP, as mentioned in the option A, leading to the detachment of cross bridge, not to the power stroke. Okay, addition of ATP molecule, it releases the myosin molecule from the actin, and it does not initiate it, isn't it? So there are 3 steps. Let's see option D and we will revise it again. Okay, and the option D is detachment of the myosin head from the actin and phosphorylation of myosin light chain. This description is more relevant to smooth muscle. So phosphorylation of myosin light chain is of what can we say, this is more related to smooth muscle cell, and we are in context with skeletal muscle, isn't it? As you can revise that smooth muscle cells are involuntary, isn't it? They do not work according to your will, and the sliding theory is more related to skeletal muscle, which or voluntary muscles which you can control, like muscles of hands or muscles of legs, isn't it? So again, revising again, in skeletal muscle contraction, the power stroke is initiated by which one of the following? Okay, the option number A was the initial binding of ATP. Whenever the ATP binds to myosin molecule, this detaches the actin molecule again. Okay, and it gives a you can see where the context is. After a power stroke, the myosin head remains stuck to the actin in a state called rigor. Okay, after power stroke, the myosin is stuck. Okay, it stuck to what it is stuck. It is stuck to the actin molecule. A new unless a new ATP molecule is arrived, it breaks the bond and reattaches again itself to itself. So this is not the power stroke. Okay, and releases of PI is as the here you can see it it gets released from the actin molecule and reattaches itself from the actin molecule when a new ATP molecule is brought or utilized, isn't it? And again, when ATP is utilized, ADP and PI are released, but first what is first released? Release of PI is first, and when PI is released, then the power stroke takes place, isn't it? And this is the answer, release of PI from the myosin heads. This causes power stroke. Once PI has been released, then after ADP is released, isn't it? Then after ADP is released and the myosin heads remain stuck to the actin molecule unless a new ATP molecule arrives and it again releases the actin molecule and reattaches itself to the actin molecule. Hope that makes sense. Okay, and this phosphorylation of myosin light chain is more related to smooth muscle cell, which is out of the syllabus now. So thank you for being there, and this is the whole diagram, if you whole image, if you want to revise again. This I have zoomed in for you, 1 2 and again 3 4. Okay, so option number B is correct, and this is also the what do we say, summary of what we have just discussed. And thank you.